Thank you. And I'm feeling about 95 at the moment. It's going to be a big day. Bryden, if you want to come forward a bit so everyone can see you. Okay, so we're just going to have a quick chat, intermingled with a bit of information about Bryden and his job, and also some other things that link his journey with some information about Down syndrome. So, just to start off with, so what is Down syndrome? Okay. Down syndrome is a genetic condition. Typically, the human body has 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46. Down syndrome occurs when an individual has a full or partial extra copy of chromosome 21 of a total of 47 chromosomes. This additional genetic material has an impact on physical characteristics and intellectual development. Okay, I fell pregnant with Bryden when I was 35 years of age. That put me in the old mum category, and I got told that quite consistently, that I was an old mum. I had a 1 in 360 chance of having a child with Down syndrome. Most children are born to younger mums, not the older mums. With improved screening, studies have found that 90% of mothers choose not to continue with a pregnancy. In the future, Down syndrome will not be the most common chromosomal disability, but the information and strategies provided today are relevant to many students with a disability. Okay. Let's go on the next bit.
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are advised that this video contains images and voices of people who may have passed away. The Department of Education acknowledges the country of the traditional custodians of the lands, seas and waterways on which we work. We also acknowledge elders, past, present and emerging.
In the department, we value talent in all abilities.
We are increasing accessibility,
opportunity, inclusion and support
for employees of all abilities.
When you share information
about your diversity,
different ways of working,
and different ways of thinking,
we can work together to remove barriers in the workplace,
which enables everyone to succeed.
Your diversity is our strength.
Is your workplace enabling people of all abilities to succeed?
So, Bryden, read your bit. Oh, sorry, honey. There you
go. I work at the multiple staff school. I am a Teacher Aide. I work 3 days a week. I always want to work with children, and now I do.
Thank you, Bryden. Okay. Bryden always wanted to work with children, and I thought I was being a good mum, being realistic. And he wanted to be a teacher and work in a school like his mum. And I told him, Education Queensland does not employ people with Down syndrome. I really like it when my son proves me wrong, which he has done right throughout his whole life. So, the greatest barrier facing people with Down syndrome is not their intellectual disability, but confronting negative attitudes, overcoming outdated stereotypes and challenging the limitation placed on them by others, including their own mothers at times. What they lack is not ability, but opportunity. And I have to thank Natalie Wynne, who was the one that set up this program and organised it for Bryden to be able to be included in onto their school as an employee. So let's go. Bryden's job. Okay, you ready now?
Mental role and one-on-one sport, resulting in teaching key words and gentle sport, clean up the classroom, and improve duties.
Bryden does much more than that. He has about 4 hours that he works with specific children with special needs, so he is a role model and a mentor. And the remainder of the time he works as a teacher aide. He does have a support worker with him that just is in the background and does not do anything for him. It's just that he works 2.5 hours by public transport away from our house, which is generally only a 15 minutes drive. So he needs somebody to take him and bring him back, but he's completely independent there, and he's a very valued member of the staff. So we're just going to talk a bit about the characteristics of Down syndrome. There are over 120 physical and medical features associated with the condition. However, no individual is exclusive solely to the diagnosis of Down syndrome. Most individuals will have 7 or 8, and today we'll be talking about the 5 most prevalent characteristics and how these can be barriers in the education environment. Now, there is no link between physical features and intelligence. Therefore, it is a misconception that a person has mild or part Down syndrome simply because they have less noticeable features and don't match preconceived ideas on what a person with Down syndrome looks like. Bryden actually doesn't look like me, but they generally do look like a family member. He looks exactly like one of his brothers, except his brother's about 6'5", which Bryden does think he's 6'5", so. They always say don't work with children and animals, and it may be even worse working with your own son. So let's see how we go here. Okay, one of the issues, one of the characteristics of people with Down syndrome is they may have problems with their vision. We all adjust and accommodate our vision when we look at things in distances. It is just that we do it so quickly and efficiently that we don't notice. People with Down syndrome take longer and expel more energy to bring things into enough focus for them to see features clearer. So that would be what they see straight away, and then they've got to adjust their vision from there. It just takes that bit longer. It can also impact on how they see their environment. An example is rising stairs. Those open stairs, you'll see them balk because they see that very differently than what we see it. They haven't got the ability to adjust the distances, and they're fearful they're going to fall straight through those stairs. So going up and down stairs can be quite difficult for them vision-wise as well as the rest. Bryden doesn't wear glasses. We were very lucky, we missed out on that. But he does have blocked tear ducts. So he gets the little bit of weepy eyes and everything. So that twinkle in his eyes is not that he's got a cheeky personality. It's because he's got accumulation of fluid there. So what in the classroom can you do? You can enlarge images and worksheets, remove unnecessary detail where possible, and that was wonderful with the information before on how to be able to change things that you've taken a picture of. Embolden faint lines and write instructions in black. Highlight words or areas of focus in worksheet and information. Provide a copy of anything written on the board or on their desk. Many people with Down syndrome have poor accommodation, which is adjusting from long sight to short sight. Support use of glasses or contacts, and bifocals are becoming more popular to assist with that accommodation difficulty. Check with their parents or carer for the latest vision test with a specialist. Recommended to be done every 6 months. Vision fatigue is the constant need to focus and refocus vision every time a child switches from what they're looking at, and it can cause headaches, eye strain, along with frustration because of visual discomfort. So they will tire much more from just that action of looking up and down all the time. As you would have heard in, or some of you may have heard in the previous one, the majority of people with Down syndrome do experience hearing loss at some time throughout their lives. Most is conductive hearing loss resulting from glue ear. This affects up to 93% of toddlers and 68% of school-aged children. Bryden has had 10 operations for grommets due to glue ear, and he had a further loss of hearing from medication he had when he got viral pneumonia. Most children outgrow the glue ear by their teens. Bryden commenced wearing hearing aids when he was 7 years old. We got the brightest coloured ones that they offered to make it easier to find them, because it's remarkable where he could hide them. But Bryden has been responsible for the care of his hearing aids for many years. Now he sees it as a fashion statement, and he'll choose the colours that he thinks will match his outfits, the same as with his glasses. So he has a pride of being hard of hearing. So what might you see in a classroom? Look fors. Visual cueing of their peers when teaching directions are given. Watching the lips very intently, and many children hearing loss escapes detection because they are very successful lip readers. Dropping in the beginning sounds or end sounds of words, for example, cat for cat, especially apparent with the softer sounding letters of the alphabet, and mixing up of words. That one of mixing up from insult to assault can become a very, very troublesome issue. We had that with Bryden, that yes, he got those words mixed up and I could have lost 2 careers out of it. Children cannot localise sound or tell where it's coming from. They appear as selective of who they listen to. Deeper voices are often easier to hear with the most common childhood hearing losses. So they may hear a male voice better, but a lot of men also have beards, so they lose that information because they're not seeing their lips move. They may startle at sounds or be hypersensitive to noise. Their hearing systems may overcompensate for the damaged area, putting some of the frequencies on loudspeaker. They may appear tired, put their head down and cover their ears, or withdraw to a quieter environment. This is called hearing fatigue. So when hearing fatigue is happening, the brain must work harder to sense the information that it receives from the inner ear, which can be mentally exhausting. Each cell is responsible for translating a specific pitch and frequency. When these cells die or are damaged, they cannot do their job. The auditory system loses ability to translate that frequency, causing the brain to work harder to process incoming information. So there you have vision fatigue, hearing fatigue. Speech and language impairment is common with people with Down syndrome, although the nature of their language learning difficulties varies between individuals. And Anthea explained that exceptionally well. Their receptive vocabulary, what they understand, is a relative strength. They may have more advanced vocabulary than what they present. They may have difficulty understanding what they hear associated with verbal short-term memory. They may experience difficulties with sound structure of words, the phonics. As you've heard in Bryden's video, which you didn't hear because it wasn't up there, but Bryden, in his speech, you can see that his clarity and fluency of his speech can be affected. This can be due to physical difficulties such as low muscle tone, as well as cognitive difficulties of speech production and hearing difficulties. We've been doing speech language therapy for a very, very long time, and we play, Big Bang Theory trivia and Friends trivia every single night. So if you ever have a trivia thing where you need somebody that knows Friends and Big Bang, I'm your person. But it definitely is working. Okay. So what can you do in the classroom? You can use augmented and alternate communication, speech devices, pods, keyword signing, the visual schedules, first and then strips, choice boards, allow take-up response time. Conversation patterns need to be explicitly taught. Model sentence structure. Reading is a relative strength which will help develop the sentence structure, so they become very good readers. Give explicit playtime, allow incidental conversations with peers. The ability to learn by imitation is well known and indeed was documented by many people. This attribute is a powerful strength in an inclusive classroom where learners with Down syndrome are surrounded by students on whom they can model learning behaviours, especially communication. Okay. So we come to fine and gross motor milestones. Children with Down syndrome usually develop gross and fine motor skills in the same order as typically developing children, but often with some delay. The student in your classroom may have only just walked a year or two before they started school. So their gross motor will be there, but you just got to think they're still maybe at a pre-coming to school level of gross motor. With their fine motor, the skills of holding a pencil, the pincer grip are delayed, and they won't have the ability to sustain that grasp the same as their neurotypical students. But they will get there. It's just delayed. So just keep persevering. So what can we do? Things that work. Changes to position, movement breaks when doing table work. They do need that up and down dynamic. They cannot sustain it. Seating, ensure that their feet are touching the ground and the table is at the correct height. So all of you OCD teachers, you don't have to have all your tables at the same height. You might need a smaller table and chair for your smaller children. Seated floor positions can be hard to maintain. So set up a back stall with a few other students just so that they've got that ability to stay up and be able to look at you. Use an alternative pencil. You've got iPads, alphabet flip charts, computer keyboards, or peer scribes. Finger strengthening activities, therapy, Play-Doh or clay. Keyword signing really gives you strong fingers. Texters, felt pens and or whiteboards. They provide less resistance and workload, and use slope boards or easels. Now, locus of momentum. If you can grab a bit of paper in front of you and a pen, just want to demonstrate something. Now, just using a shoulder movement, I'd like you to write your name. Right? It's just a shoulder movement. Don't use your elbow, don't use your wrist. So you can put your hand up there to make sure that you're just doing it. Write your name. Yeah, can you write your name? Okay, how was that? What did your writing look like? It was very hard, wasn't it? Yeah, because we use that movement. But if their gross motor is delayed and they've still got their locus of momentum at their shoulder, they're not going to struggle with all that writing on the table. Now, I want you to pretend you've got an easel up in front of you, right? Now, write your name using your shoulder. Right? You can see that you've got more control. That's why 2-year-olds draw all over your walls, right? We don't want to encourage wall drawing, but if you can get easels in, locate where their locus of momentum is. If it's in their elbow, if they're using their elbow, you will see a lot of the scribbling action, right? A slope board will help with that because then you're just using that area. So look at your student and find out where their locus of momentum is. Okay, there are some potential health concerns, and the reason that we mention this is they may impact on their ability to be able to attend school. They may have more time that they're away from school, or that they're having to go to, like due to sickness, hospitalisation, or go to medical appointments or therapists. So, first one, eye issues. Up to 50% of individuals with Down syndrome will wear glasses. That's why it's important to make sure they have regular eye tests and from a specialist. Heart issues, hole in the heart, enlarged ventricles, narrow passages to lungs. 50% of children have some heart issues. Sometimes it's not picked up, so they do need to have that checked, and they may become very fatigued. Bryden had heart surgery at 6.5 weeks of age. He went into cardiac failure twice before that. Luckily, he has had no further problems except possibly having a bit too much of his thyroxine medication and sending himself into palpitations, which he has turned around and told everyone he had heart attacks. So, weight issues, hypothyroidism, slow metabolism. Bryden, once he hit teenage years, had to go on to thyroxine just to be able to maintain that. Ear infections and hearing difficulties, as I mentioned. Bryden's had quite a few surgeries. The physical characteristics associated with Down syndrome contribute to inner, middle and outer ear problems. The eustachian tube is floppy, right? It's a muscle, but it's floppy and it blocks off very easily. So you can have fluctuating hearing loss. So they can hear from 1 week, next week they may not hear, then the week after they can hear. So it can really impact on your teaching if they've got that fluctuating hearing loss. You'll mostly see it through behaviours and all those look-fors. Dental issues, gum disease and dental bite. They often have trouble chewing and swallowing due to lax muscle tone. Dental issues due to grinding their teeth and actually double sets of teeth, and the teeth can come in at all different places. Bryden had $6,000 worth of dental work by the time he was 5 years of age. Luckily, we had private health insurance, but yeah. So it's a continuing problem with them. And if you've got the answer to grinding of the teeth, you will make yourself a hell of a lot of money. Sleep apnea. Leukemia, 10 to 20 times more likely to develop childhood leukemia and is a major cause of death for children under 10. But they're less likely to get cancer, other forms of cancers. Sleep apnea, which Bryden has. There's a 50 to 100% incident of obstructive sleep apnea in people with Down syndrome, with almost 60% of children having abnormal sleep studies, and this increases as they get older. Bryden was falling asleep first thing in the back rows there just because he doesn't warm up till about 11 o'clock. So he starts his work at 11:30. So it's been adjusted to work with how he is best. But yeah, he just used to wander during the night, right throughout the whole household. Respiratory infections, particularly when younger, more likely to get those infections, gastrointestinal issues, flat feet, and muscle disorders and low muscle tone, loosening of ligaments and increased flexibility. Do you want to do your party trick?
Yeah.
Okay, party trick. Used to break the barrier at every playground. So he'd go to the playground, and if he was excluded, he'd just do his party trick. Next day say, oh, that's cool, come you play with us. So yes, we don't encourage you. You're one of the lucky people to get to see it. So if you've met one person with Down syndrome, you've just met one person with Down syndrome. They're definitely individuals. And this is just a quick little... can you tell me your name? Oh, we can't hear it.
Yeah,
They can't hear it.
yeah, I'm brother, and from bad boy, and Tony. There's some Dave and the boy and those sick and dying. Very terrible.
Go.
So, I'm teased on the side. I hop on cards. Roll.
Yeah, he's well travelled. He also travels beautifully, tucks himself up, got the big bladder from just lasts the whole way.
I'm working in Maxwell State School.
And what do you do at a Mudgebar State School?
I'm Teacher Aide.
Okay, so thank you very much. If you've got any questions or anything, you can come to us later. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions. Just email me. So, thank you.